Well, is there like a free, like, does the Free State Project have like land for like organizational use or
so
what?
The Free State Project, again, it's 1% of the Free State movement. So the Free State Project has like 2 employees and a budget of like $200,000 a year. Okay, like it's a small organization. The Free State movement owns like $1 billion worth of property in the state, and and the total organizational budget of all the different organizations is in the like tens of millions or hundreds. It's a huge amount of what's happening. So, are there real estate companies that are owned by Free Staters that prioritize Free Staters that try to do this kind of thing? Yeah, they're not explicitly under the auspices of the Free State Project.
Now, is there a concern like the government might come after people for sedition or something?
When's the last time that happened? Has that happened? I mean, I think
probably not for a long time.
Civil War?
I think they're more likely to come after you in like oblique ways. Yeah. Like you could look at how they've targeted like Ian Freeman over some of this crypto stuff. Free the Crypto 6, by the way, where like they're trying to say he violated federal money transmission laws. I mean, you could look at how they're coming after me. Right, I'm being sued by the federal government in civil court. I think they're more likely to do things in this way where they don't have to make it explicitly about what it's actually about.
I came up with a little bit, we were spitballing ideas about secession or what it might be. And let me know what you think about this, that if the government, and people kind of laughed at it because it's not a really well thought out thing, but if, say, New Hampshire were to secede, but they set up a smart contract or some sort of automated system where if the United States government, federal government, met the terms of these secessionists, they would automatically be re-implemented back into the federal system.
Yeah, I think that's a very clever way to do it, where you can do it with these triggers. That's the way the Free State Project started, by the way. The Free State Project, like, it wasn't like people were like, New Hampshire is awesome, let's move there. It started by, there's a guy named Jason Sorens. He wrote this essay, and the opening of the essay was basically, the Libertarian Party is a failure. The notion of the Libertarian Party ever achieving its agenda in my lifetime is like literally hopeless. I'd bet all this money that will never happen. He made this 20-year prediction 20 years ago. It came true just very recently. He was completely correct. And he said that, like, but there are enough libertarians in the country that if we concentrated, we could actually achieve our agenda. And the way that started was people signed an assurance contract, like a Kickstarter. And so it started with 5,000 people saying, well, we're not sure where we're going to move, but we'll all move to the place that we agree on, and then we'll continue to keep the movement going from there. So there was this whole selection process. Like Wyoming was the second state, and Alaska, I think, was the third. And they went through, I mean, there was a longer list, but that's the way it came out. New Hampshire came in first, Wyoming came in second, and Alaska came in third, where they went through and debated all the possible states. And a key target was low population, right? New Hampshire only has 1 million people, right? So that's part of why we're able to have such an outsized effect with only, 10,000, or so.
So if 1,000,001 people move to New Hampshire and then you vote, you get exactly what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you need anywhere near that number. And I was talking to Lydia about this, about like, a big part of libertarians tend to be they tend to be independently minded, right?
Yeah.
And so they tend to commit the typical mind fallacy and model other people as independently minded. It's a big part of why the Libertarian Party is such a failure. They're like, people make their decisions as independent, rational animals, and they consider the policy, and then our policies are better, so they'll vote for us. And it is like the most absolutely wrong model of how people actually decide things. Most people are agreeable. They decide things to feel like they're being agreeable, to feel like they're getting along and going along, and this is what other people believe. And so when you have, it's another way of Nassim Taleb's tyranny of the minority. If you have this small minority of people that are extremely vocal about what they believe, they pull a ton of these agreeable people to their positions. And it's a big part of how we're succeeding. It's even how the libertarians in New Hampshire are making the Republican Party more libertarian, is because they go in and they're Republicans now, and they're advocating these really libertarian positions. And so they've pulled these these Trumpian conservative types to be much more libertarian because they're Republicans, and they're being loud about what they believe.
What's the state budget? I feel like we could bring billions of dollars in industry into that state.
There's so much money in defecting. There's so much money in for one country or one state to defect from not just the U.S. regime, but the global regime in terms of the way that it shuts down creative entrepreneurship and all kinds of other things.
I think, New Hampshire is not the best choice. I think West Virginia is better.
Ooh, you're landlocked, though. I mean, if we're role playing all this out,
yeah.
That's true. Landlocked is bad, but the issue is New Hampshire's blue. I'm looking at their election results.
I think that is so. New Hampshire has a Republican governor, 60% of the vote. Republican Executive Council, which is this organ that other people don't have, but it's part of the executive body. Republican Senate, Republican state legislature. The entire state government is red.
So it was just like an anti-Trump recoil, maybe?
A lot of New Hampshire conservatives did not like Trump. New Hampshire's like traveling back in time. This is one of the weirdest parts where it's like they're like decorum and the process and rational, and we're going to debate things and like let's all get along. And so the kind of like brash style that Trump had was very off-putting to a lot of
that's
New
true.
Hampshire citizens.
And I mention it all the time. Like regular people were like, I don't like the way he talks. Yeah. That hurts him. It helped him in a lot of ways, but landlocked is a big issue. But it's actually, the other issue is who you're surrounded by in New Hampshire. So I had this debate with Luke all the time. He's like, New Hampshire's the best. And I'm like, yeah, but look what you're surrounded by. Canada. And then you got Massachusetts. You got, Vermont? Vermont's not bad.
Yeah, I actually think this helps in terms of acceleration because the truth is, like, it's awesome. We have people move from California and all over the country. But the truth is more people move from closer nearby, right? And so if you're in a place like Wyoming, where are you pulling people from? It's a big
everywhere.
It's right. Yeah. If you're in New Hampshire, it's there's a lot of libertarians in Massachusetts
and in New York.
There's a lot of libertarians in New York, exactly. And it's not that hard to move from those places to New Hampshire. It's a little more palatable. So I actually think it's been a good choice by the movement to be in this population center.
I agree with you now.
Okay. And look, we're gonna be the Hong Kong of America. So as America turns into China, we're going to become Hong Kong with more guns. Okay? Yeah. That's what New Hampshire's going to become.
It's actually very valuable to be on the border with Canada.
Yeah.
Especially, if global warming is real, Canada's going to be a tropical paradise. Maybe not tropical, subtropical. It's going to be a beautiful, beautiful country.
Well, again, even the IPCC like consensus estimate is like what? It's like 2 to 3 degrees C, right? Like things would change, but they wouldn't.
I hear you have black flies in New Hampshire.
I know we don't have one of the most common types of mosquitoes. They don't come that far north.
But you got black flies. Pretty sure.
Probably.
I know in northern Maine. So we were actually looking for a bunch of places to set up like outside of cities. And I was like, Maine, maybe. But Maine is insanely expensive. And there's cheaper areas where there's limited infrastructure. It's because all the really rich people go to like the shores of Portland, of Maine to get away. And it's just like... Yeah, you got to be pretty well off for the most part. And I was looking at property and comparing it, identical infrastructure, substantially cheaper in the West Virginia area than basically anywhere else.
I've been thinking about setting up like a university for scientists that want to learn how to make graphene, because I don't know if you're familiar much with graphene, but it's like going to be a 21st century steel. We're right about 2029. We're going to start to see influx. And I was going to do it nationally, like do it in Chicago, get the federal funds to fund it, build an American thing that we manage for 15 years and show all these Americans that get 2 weeks for free with their tax money to come and learn how to use it. And then all the graphene we produce is free for all Americans forever. And then after 15 years, it becomes a utility and we just produce and use free. And it's like space elevator travel. But we could do it on a state level. Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, let's do it. New Hampshire, graphene capital of the world.
There you go.
It's going to happen.
You gotta get some industry to come in, and I gotta be honest. There's a lot of very, very, very wealthy people, and I'm surprised we don't see more of this.
I am surprised more wealthy people don't try to defect. But I mean, New Hampshire's that's the thing. It has like a small population, and in some ways it can feel rural, but it really has everything. It has a huge tech industry. The average income in New Hampshire is like in the top 5 for states. Like the median income is like $75,000 a year or something.
Constitutional carry.
Oh yeah, constitutional carry, standard ground, castle doctrine. We've got like the best gun laws in the country.
What's your state motto?
Live free or die.
Wow. Motto. Maybe we should slowly start moving production up to New Hampshire.
Yeah, and we mean it. Like seriously, people mean it. It's like people have a libertarian. And this is again part of why the state was chosen. Like people have a natural libertarian bias. They don't want to be in your business. They don't want to bother you. I mean, New Hampshire had the highest vote percentage for Ron Paul in 2012, right? Like of any state in the country. I mean, there was a natural libertarian leaning to the population.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. What if the future is? What if we like lived there 3 months out of the year or something?
Only in the winter.
Only in the deepest winter.
Or in the summer.
Well, I like that we're centralized right now. We're closer to DC. But I don't know if that is going to be necessary.
Look, I think like whether you would be happy in New Hampshire, like listening to this conversation is like reading a dating profile and deciding if someone is going to be your wife, okay,
Exactly.
or husband. Like, this is a dating profile. This is like, do I want to go on a date with this person? It's not, do I want to marry them? So you don't have to be convinced that New Hampshire is the best place for you. What you have to do is be curious. And then the next step is you come for a visit. You come check it out. You come to PorcFest this summer. You buy your tickets tonight because it's going to sell out. You come to Liberty Forum in the fall, which is not quite as laid back as PorcFest, but it's for like the people who want to be like, I want to get stuff done. I'm a serious person. New Hampshire, NHLibertyForum.com. You can buy tickets right now. Come for a visit anytime. The FSP will literally be like your personal tour guide. We'll plug you into all the secret stuff that's not available online. If you contact us, we'll teach you about the secret clubs, and there's a public calendar, but there's also stuff that's like not on the calendar. So you got to come for a visit. You got to get in touch with us, and we'll let you check out the state, and then you can decide if that's a place you want to be.
I don't care if it's West Virginia or Wyoming or New Hampshire. The idea of like people coming together, and so at this point, it's like the Free State Project's been around so long, and New Hampshire probably does make the most sense just based on what's already built in its foundation. And man, New Hampshire is a pretty free place. I see, Luke firing the flamethrower.
Yeah.
Yep.
He fired it at PorcFest this summer. There's a great video of it.
Nice.
The idea that we could affect government change is very exhilarating. As an American, I'm like, as if that should be anything but the norm. But I don't know. What's like the libertarian political movement in New Hampshire right now in the government there?
Yeah. So, and let me first say that, like, I agree with you completely. Like, I hated voting when I lived in Philadelphia. I basically didn't do it. I did it like begrudgingly because your friends were like, you have to vote, Jeremy. Don't be a bad person. And I'm like happy to vote every time I go in to vote. Every single election, I can vote for someone who I feel like shares my values and wants the world to be the kind of way that I want the world to be. And that does feel, it's the first time that voting has like felt good to me in a very long time, since maybe when I was in my early 20s and actually believed in it in a more genuine form. So it's ended a lot of that cynicism. And libertarians run for every kind of position office. They run as Democrats, they run as Republicans, they run as libertarians. Most of them do get elected as Republicans, but they get elected under every party.
You only need to send a libertarian candidate to Congress.
I agree.
I think one of the most important things is to have like a duly elected, like formally elected libertarian go there. Probably caucus with Republicans, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see it. I mean, I do think it's really hard to win third party, and I'm a supporter of the Libertarian Party. Seems like it's becoming more libertarian again with the Mises Caucus and Dave Smith, he's awesome, and all of these people who are like you're really giving this full-throated support for libertarianism rather than like the woke neoliberal party or like whatever it had become. But I think it is really hard to win as a third party. Yeah. I think that you have whatever that law is, like Duverger's law or whatever, that like just like everything trends towards two parties, and so it's really hard to win as a third party. So I would love it if a Libertarian Party candidate could win. I really just want libertarians to win. I don't care what letter is next to your name.
Yeah,
like a libertarian governor.
Yeah, there is. So the current, he was a past candidate for governor, and he's currently the head of the school place organization. What's the branch of government?
Board?
Department of the School.
Department of Education.
State. Yeah.
Yeah.
I clearly attended.
We're
one.
deep right now.
Yeah. Anyway, he's like very libertarian, and he's decently likely to be the next governor. So the current governor is like, he's like libertarian financially, but he's like not as libertarian on other policies.
Run as a Republican, win, and then immediately announce you're in the Libertarian Party.
So we had Republicans do that. That's how New Hampshire had 3 libertarians in the state legislature like 4 years ago, and that was exactly what they did. That's how they did it.
They ran as Republicans, won, and then we're like, all right, we're libertarians.
Yep.
The Libertarian Party is so wacky, though. That's the problem.
It's the only way. The Libertarian Party likes to tout these candidates. They're like, oh, we have these. They've literally never won a 3-way race. Literally never. All of their candidates that are in the state legislature either won and defected, whatever, changed parties, or they ran a 2-party race. So like they have Marshall Burt in Wyoming. He ran Libertarian against Democrat without a Republican in the race and was able to win.
Oh, interesting.
And so if you can somehow get it down to 2 parties, I think the Libertarian Party can win. And I think it'd be great if Libertarians could run under the Libertarian Party. Like, the Libertarian Party platform is more libertarian than the Republican platform. Although in New Hampshire, this is another way that Libertarians win. They're so, I gotta say, if you've never been part of a cabal, you need to get a cabal. Like, cabals are awesome. They're really fun, right? And so then one of the ways they win is, like, they go in and they write the Republican platforms. Like, the Republican platform, you can look it up for the Republican platform of New Hampshire, not nationally. It's, like, pretty libertarian. And if you look at the scores of state reps, the libertarian ones do better because the libertarians wrote the Republican platform for the not entirely. There's clearly some things in there they didn't get that they would have liked to have, but it's much more libertarian than most Republican platforms.
I think we could set up free software machine learning algorithms to advise the governor. If not, I wouldn't want one to act as a governor because I want a human to make the final call, but I want people to be able to watch the advisement that the governor is receiving. And then, I mean, we could really create like an art project.
Yeah.
There.
I mean, I'm actually not fully getting this idea, but
like, we need some sort of, having one human controlling all this power is insane to me. And I would love to disperse the power of the governor amongst many people. I don't know if that's functional for like split second decisions, but usually governors don't have to make those. That's like the president. So, but I'm also interested in utilizing AI to ease the political thing. Like you said, you hate voting. Yeah. No one wants to deal with that. We send representatives because we have to, because it's the least worst system. So maybe
what if there was a system where machine learning just figured out what people tended towards? I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm saying, what would a system be like if, YouTube says like, man, people sure do love clicking on, boobs or whatever. So they show you more and more of that stuff. Then eventually a human has to intervene because people are complaining, like this goes against their values. What would a government be like if laws changed based on how people reacted to the system in place? So it was amorphous almost.
It depends on how good the system is. Like, I mean, I think I'm
socialist,
like,
probably.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like relatively anti-democratic and like populist. I think like generally the more democratic we've become, the less libertarian we've become. One of my unpopular beliefs among libertarians, I'll say it now because I am one of those highly disagreeable types who says these things anyway. It's like, I think libertarians need to face the fact that most people aren't libertarian. Most people don't want to be libertarian. Most people don't actually like freedom and personal responsibility and individual choice, but they don't.
So you need to level up the Free State Project and not just attract libertarians, but also attract people by saying, if you want to be a sheep in the flock, protected by a strong sheepdog and a shepherd, New Hampshire's place for you. Just do as you're told, vote the way we tell you, and we'll keep you safe.
Yeah, I think there is a way that happens, and almost kind of already does, though not quite that explicitly, but there are all kinds of libertarians that are like large employers, right? And a large employer has the chance to kind of like, they are kind of playing that role, not always, but they're giving you a job, but they also have this chance to kind of push political perspectives. They have this chance to influence the way that you think, and if you're agreeable, you kind of, my boss is good to me and so on. And so when you have these libertarians, and this is what the Libertarian Party doesn't understand, but what I think the Free State movement does, whether implicitly or explicitly, is like the way you actually change people's minds is you become an accomplished person, you attain status in your community by being a good person, by being a good father, by being a contributor, by being a volunteer, by being successful, by having your life together. And when you do all of those things, people look up to you. And then people copy and adapt your values and what you believe because they see, well, look at that person. Look at how he is or she is. And I want to be more like that.
Have you considered just using your funding for propaganda campaigns to just trick people into supporting you?
Well, I mean, again, the libertarians do run under every party. We don't have that much money. Our money is going to get people here. We're the bus, right? So, get people on the bus.
But so I remember reading about like all these rich people got a cruise ship so they could do weird stuff in international waters that was illegal for like their businesses or something. Where are the billionaires to be like, let's just go to New Hampshire and fund this so that we can have laissez-faire.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
A lot of them went to Puerto Rico after the hurricane and started to rebuild a new utopian, Bitcoin utopia. So I heard. That's the last I heard of it.
A billionaire could conquer New Hampshire, as it were. Come with massive funding. Like everything you mentioned about the low population and people you like.
Okay, for all billionaires listening, please contact me.
2020 tax revenue was $800 million in this state. I mean, we could bring billions, and especially with the amount of money that's been printed lately.
Yikes.
Geez, we could bring a lot of money into that state. And it's not really about the money, though. It's about what we produce, the production.
Well, really, all that needs to happen is employers need to relocate to the state. if you've got, any amount of employers and you relocate to New Hampshire, you bring those employees with you. Not an easy thing for everybody, but if you can do that, that not only brings more money to the state, but it brings those people and their taxes, and it just makes the economy of New Hampshire better. Wouldn't it be funny? Like, just imagine, 100 years from now, you look at a topographical map of the United States, and it's like everything looks kind of the same, but New Hampshire is a massive megatropolis with flying cars.
Oh, that's the future.
Have you ever seen this? I love this video. It's from I think it's called Gray Still Plays. Is that the guy, the YouTuber?
I don't know.
This guy, he was playing a game called SECEDE, I think it's called, and you basically are building a city-state. You can choose to have taxes, low taxes, high taxes. You can choose to regulate or deregulate and things like that. And so he decides to play this game where he's like, it's going to be anarchy. It's going to be whatever. I don't care. No rules, no taxes. And what he thought was going to happen was it was going to be poverty and chaos. And it's a hilarious video because he's like, what's happening? And there's no poor. There's zero poverty. Everyone's wealthy. Ski resorts keep popping up all over the place. And he's like, what? And all he did was say no taxes, no government, no intervention. And everyone lived in luxury.
City State 2's out, by the way. Awesome game. Shout out to Raptor Games on YouTube.
Well, I think this is another thing that some libertarians can miss because, everyone lives in luxury now, right? Like, seriously, I'm not trying to say they're psychologically healthy or they're physically healthy, but in terms of if you could work a minimum wage job, and in terms of what you have available to you in terms of quality food, technology, all these things, it is a better life than most people have had throughout history. The difference is that human beings, a lot of libertarians don't feel this way, but most other people do. They experience a psychic pain when other people have more than them. They literally they do. This is part of what libertarians tend to not experience this. So a lot of them don't believe me when I say this, but that's what so much of this stuff is about. That's what the Green New Deal is about. That's why socialists don't actually care if their policies would make people worse off, because it's about bringing people closer together. Because they're pained by the fact that other people have that. Why do so many environmentalists hate Elon Musk, who's doing more to make the world green than anyone else? Because he's really rich.
Yeah.
Right. Why is there so much hatred for Jeff Bezos, who again gives lots of $15, $20 an hour jobs that anyone can go and get, right? Because he's really rich. And there are a lot of people. I don't have this feeling. I don't have it myself. But there are a lot of people who just have that feeling, and simply the distance in resources makes that person bad.
So the envy, I guess, is what.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I used to feel that when I would wait tables in LA, and I'd wait on. I was just telling this story with you guys last night, and I would just get it. I'd be like, gosh, I wish I could not have to work in the middle of the day and go walk my dog with my sandals on and eat $30 meals every day, 5 days a week, and I'd just go about my business thinking that'd be awesome. Then get back to it, just dealing with my reality. But I felt it, it's not as much anymore. But, I've also done more that I'm proud of, so that's part of it.
Yeah, that's socialism. It's envy. People not realizing that you have better dental care today than Rockefeller did. He's got this massive wealth, the wealthiest guy, and you can get better dental. You got air conditioning. He didn't. You've got a refrigerator, luxury items. You got a TV. You got a big screen TV. You got VR headsets for a couple $100. I was talking about this a while back. Someone said something to me, Occupy. They were like, we're the first generation that's going to be worse off than our parents' generation. And I was like, my dad didn't have a TV or a phone. Because they were not, it was TVs were expensive. Now people got TVs in their pockets. Yeah. And you got to pay the bill for that.
If you could take this device back in history and it still somehow worked, it would be worth all the world's wealth, all of it or half of it or some tremendous amount.
If you downloaded the contents of Wikipedia onto this device and had a charging cable and a battery pack that could easily recharge it, or just a wall charger, you brought it back 50 years, it'd be worth $100 trillion.
Yeah.
Because it's now, to be fair, future information is worth an infinite amount of money. But let's say all it had, let's say you downloaded Wikipedia's a Wikipedia database, an encyclopedic database from 1970, identical information to what they had at the time, nothing beyond their level of knowledge. The device would still be worth billions of dollars.
Trillions.
Yeah.
Trillions. Because they could be I can pull up all of the information we currently know of 1970 and no one else can. Oh yeah,
governments would look for it. It would be.
Oh yeah.
It's fascinating. I love like these shows, the superhero shows. You know, Heroes did it, where they like, you know, how do you handle people with powers and people who don't? So in like X-Men, they have the Mutant Registry Act because they're like, this is dangerous, these mutants. And I think about, there's this this is a common trope in sci-fi, and I think it's just often said, the reason why aliens would not give humans technology is, what do you think they would do with it? They'd wage war. What do you think would happen if you went to you know, a village in Africa and said, here's a stockpile of, you know, M16s or something and crates full of ammo? They would be like, we're going to use it to empower ourselves, and we're going to, you know, take care of our enemies. So what happens in the U.S., or I should say in the world, is that typically all this technology arises simultaneously in different ways. So you do end up with world war and conflict and crisis, but for the most part, we're always kind of, you know, at an equal level. What would happen if you came and gave this power of knowledge to a you know, a prior generation? To us, it's a cell phone. We look at pictures of cats and we argue with strangers on the internet. Back then, it would be one of the most powerful weapons the world had ever seen. The fact that someone could be like, I can know everything humans can know like that.
Yeah, the envy thing seems like an emergent phenomenon because obviously people have enough. I mean, we have enough to become super gods. If any one person wanted to study everything on the internet and remember it, memorize it, you'd be...
Yeah, I mean, I think it's driven by evolution. Like, no one wants to be... Like, we've always lived in some sort of social hierarchies throughout our evolution, and everyone wants to be at the top, and no one wants to feel like they're at the bottom. And so it's for the people at the bottom of any sort of hierarchy, they want to gang up on and take down the person at the top. I think it's something that's been... I think primates do it. I think all kinds of other social animals do it. I think, you know, another point of evidence in this favor is, like, if you look at happiness research, people in countries that are much poorer than the U.S., like, aren't substantially less happy than people in the U.S. Like, the distribution of happiness is, like, pretty similar. Well, because it's not really about how well off you are. I mean, it plays a role. I'm not saying they're literally the same, but it's much more about, you know, hey, if you're doing well in society. This is also why you see this research sometimes. It's like, oh, you know, if everyone made $80,000 a year, they'd be happy. Like, look at this research. Once people make this amount of money, they're much happier. It's not about the money. It's not about the resources. It's about that once you're at a certain level, you experience happiness from being, you know, having achieved this success that distances you from others. And this is like a kind of like cold and uncomfortable way to talk about it, but I think it's the truth.
I will say though, having a little bit of money, having enough money to eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and to sleep as late as I want, is life-changing.
Yes, when you're talking about like abject poverty, like there's clear differences there. So I'm not talking about like quite at that level. There are clear differences.
I once read that a paraplegic a year after their accident and a lottery winner a year after winning register the same levels of happiness.
Yeah, wow. we experience these hedonic adjustments. Jonathan Haidt has some really good research on this topic.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to see the full show, come back to this channel, youtube.com/TimcastIRL, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., where you can leave comments and super chat, and we actually will read your comments on the show. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and if you want exclusive members-only content, segments you can't get anywhere else, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we even have full bonus episodes. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.